absolutely. I drank 70 ounces of
For those of you for coming at the end of the day, we sure appreciate your being here. This is for U.S. Congressional District 4, and we're very fortunate to have Stephen Brown, Mark Budetich, and Cresent Hardy, Niger Innis, and we have a representative from Stephen Horsford's office here who will be making a statement. But before we do that, I just wanted to provide you with the interview guidelines for the record. We have a strict schedule to adhere to, and in fact, we have to be out of here by 5 o'clock, so we will be tied to that strict schedule. This is an interview and not a debate, so no redirected questions. Candidates are allowed 1.5 minutes to self-introduce, and panelists will be given 30 seconds to pose a question, and candidates will have 1 minute to respond. And if time allows, we'll invite the audience to also make comments as well. This is not a forum to air personal grievances. We will begin with Representative Jennifer Taylor from Stephen Horsford's office, who's just going to make a statement, and then they're going to be leaving. So if you'll go ahead and make a statement.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Taylor. I'm the political director for Congressman Stephen Horsford. Thanks for allowing me a few minutes to present this statement to veterans in politics before you commence your interviews. Oh, okay. Then I'm going to have to ad-lib a little bit of editing. So, the Congressman's very sorry he's unable to attend, and thanks you for the invitation, but the congressional calendar did preclude his being able to be here tonight. On behalf of Congressman Horsford, we're requesting that Veterans in Politics endorse his candidacy in the 4th Congressional District based upon his work and his record fighting for veterans and all Nevadans. However, we also understand that Veterans in Politics has some very strict policies, and if you cannot endorse the congressman based on his inability to make this interview due to the congressional schedule, we'd request you abstain from any endorsement in the race for Nevada's 4th Congressional District. The congressman has fought for Nellis, Creech, and Hawthorne Army Depot. He represents Nevada veterans from Pahrump to Mesquite and North Las Vegas to Ely. Through direct constituent services and strong legislative advocacy, our congressman has delivered for Nevada veterans. He's voted to fully restore cost of living adjustments for veterans. He's fighting for a new VA clinic in Pahrump and working to ensure that veterans receive good care from responsive facilities in the Las Vegas Valley. He fought for and secured $70 million for Nellis Air Force Base in North Las Vegas. He's the lead sponsor of legislation, the Putting Our Veterans Back to Work Act of 2013, which funds transition, retraining, and employment services for veterans. It also supports easier access to loans for veterans, service members, and their military families that run small businesses. In fiscal year 2012 alone, Patriot Express loans totaled $118 million made to 900 veterans. He joined his fellow freshman representative, Mark Cartwright from Pennsylvania, in introducing the Veterans Mental Health Accessibility Act. This is legislation that eliminates the 5-year window and allows veterans to seek treatment for service-connected mental illnesses regardless of when their conditions manifest themselves. He had the opportunity to meet with some of the brave men who were injured at the Hawthorne Army Depot accident and was able to make statements regarding their efforts in front of the Nevada legislature. He has also dedicated his first year to helping Nevada veterans, speaking in front of the Vietnam Memorial Wall. And as you may have read in the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Representative Horsford helped Alan Powell, who's with me today, a Vietnam Air Force veteran, to get 10 years of disabled veteran benefits and the full 100% benefit that he was due after his exposure to Agent Orange. Alan really wanted to be able to address you guys quickly as part of my statement, and I apologize that I didn't know how to time limit. I'm crunched down. So Alan can just briefly let you guys know what the congressman did for him. And it's very short, 30 seconds. Go, Alan.
I served in the Air Force and served in the Vietnam War as a combat engineer. Received an Air Force commendation for my work building curtains for protection of jet fighter planes. As a result of this service, I was exposed to Agent Orange and suffered from disease associated with the exposure, including cancer, nerve damage, diabetes, heart disease, and other injuries. I have undergone treatment for these conditions, including a triple bypass and a stent being in my left leg. After nearly a decade trying to get benefits and 100% rating, Congressman Hoffman was able to assist me in the final and successful navigation of this process. His tireless work allowed me to secure benefits, and I might have not otherwise seen. He was my champion in this effort, and I know that he's been and will always be a champion for our veterans. We can count on this support,
It'll have to
and
be
I hope
time.
we
Thank you,
can
sir.
count on the support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for allowing us to make this move. We appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you
Thank
very
you for your
much.
service.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just pass it down.
All right, we'll go ahead and begin. We'll have Brett, will you pose the first question? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we have 4 individuals who are with us. We have Niger Innis, Cresent Hardy, Assemblyman Cresent Hardy, Mark Budetich, and Niger Innis, and Steve Brown. And so I'd like to invite each one of you to give an hour, or an hour and a half.
Welcome to the food here.
Welcome to a long day.
That's our first mistake.
Thank you. I'd like to invite each one of you to give a personal statement about yourself and why you're doing what you're doing, running for this congressional seat. We'll go ahead and start with Niger.
Yes, first of all, I want to thank Veterans of Politics for inviting me here to this important forum. My name is Niger Innis, and I've been in Nevada since 2007. I came out here, interestingly enough, because we put together a coalition of organizations, and even though I'm running for Congress, I still remain the national spokesman of the Congress of Racial Equality, which is one of our nation's oldest and largest civil rights organizations in the country. We came out here because we started a coalition of organizations, 60+ association, the Black Chamber of Commerce, the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference, which represents some 16 million Latino evangelicals across the country. And we were pushing back against what we thought was dumb government policy regarding energy. We believe, as an alliance, in an all-of-the-above strategy. And we felt that the moves by the Obama administration to be punitive to some forms of energy, fossil fuel-based, and to give subsidies to other forms of energy, solar, wind, etc., was bad government policy that led to an increase in prices of energy. And that when prices go up, it's a de facto most regressive tax. I won't go into much more detail here because I want to have a little bit more time to tell you about myself. But
5 seconds.
oh, I got 5 seconds.
Minute and a half.
Well, let me just tell you.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
We'll try to
okay,
get some.
that's all right.
Okay, Crescent?
Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here also. I am a lifelong resident of Nevada, a 5th-generation son of former ranchers right out of the Virgin Valley out in Mesquite, raised to be a self-reliant, self-sufficient, independent person. I've had the opportunity and the privilege to serve this wonderful county for over 20 years in many different capacities. A couple of terms on the water board, a couple of terms at the Mesquite City Council. With that, I had the opportunity to serve 2 terms as the Regional Transportation Commission Board, Regional Flood Control Vice Chairman. I served 1 term with the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, then on the Health District. I'm currently sitting on the Hospital Board of Boulder City. I've served in the Hospital Board in Mesquite, was the first founding chairman of the board. I have 4 wonderful children. I've been married to my beautiful wife almost 32 years here in a couple of months. So that is one of the reasons I'm running for this office, is I want the opportunity for my children to have those same opportunities that I had in this wonderful state and in this country, to be able to grow up and be a self-reliant, self-sufficient business-type person if that's what they desire. I'm also a business person of 20 years. And at my peak, I employed close to 350 people in about 2006. By 2010, we had less than 70. So this economy's been tough. I do things out of frustration, not necessarily because this is something I desire to do. I cannot tell you this is something that is a goal that I've ever set in my life to run.
Thank you, President. I appreciate that. Mark?
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. I moved here in 1991 as a U.S. merchant seaman to have the 24-hour life after coming back and not knowing what day or week of the week it was, and being able to acclimatize myself each time. But that said, after 15 years of doing that, I ran for the Congress in 2004 for the 4th District on a renewable energy program. And I think that what we need to do is incorporate the renewable energy into the building codes so that the architectural design of all new construction across the country has some sort of renewable energy in it, and this will help reduce costs of R&D and bring the prices in line for retrofitting existing buildings. I also think that veterans need to be a part of the census. We got everybody of their various race on here, and the only place that has a spot for a person in the military is if it's a temporary resident in your house. But if the veterans were on the census, then we wouldn't have to waste the resources of all the veterans organizations lobbying Congress to say, hey, we got all these veterans sitting down here to need your help. We'd be able to look at the census and say, we got these many veterans in this state and in this county and in this district, and why aren't we allocating the money for those veterans here and now without all this extra runaround?
Thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Brown.
Thank you. I'm Steve Brown. I've lived in Las Vegas since 1982. I've been a licensed contractor for going on 28 years. For me, my business never fully recovered from the Great Recession, so I'm still working. But I took a night job back downtown. I'm a dealer at night, so I work daytimes as the employer, at night as the employee, working for the minimum wage plus tips. And there's some real issues I want to talk about. One is the terrible way small business owners are treated, not just around the country, but in this town. This nonsense that Southern Nevada is business friendly. That is absolutely false. It is not business friendly. And another thing I want to talk about is the way tip earners are treated. There's tens of thousands of tip earners in this town. 3.5 million nationwide, 15% of them living in the poverty level, 3/4 of them women. Now the Democrats are going around talking about war on women. Yeah, I really want to talk about that. I want to talk about the way women business owners are mistreated, women who work for tips are mistreated, and I use veterans health care. Despite what was said earlier, it's a shame. I would really like to ask some questions about this because I use veterans health care, so I'm pretty much familiar with that. I do not understand why the $53 billion a year we're spending on veterans health care is a crisis. Much.
All good. Mr. Jones.
Sure. Before we begin, I'm chairman of the Libertarian Party of Nevada. I have to report a conflict. Steve Brown is one of our candidates, so I will be a non-voting member, but I will be asking questions to this group. I'm going to ask you guys the same question I asked the previous candidates running for Congress. The main driving force as to why I'm involved in politics is because I believe we need to limit the scope of the Securities and Exchange Commission and FINRA. So you guys are familiar with that. The Securities and Exchange Commission is a governing agency that basically oversees all the publicly traded companies, all securities, bonds, any transaction in the financial markets. FINRA, they manage and provide oversight, or in my case, way too much oversight into the brokerage side, so the financial institutions. The second reason as to why I'm involved with politics is because I want to increase small business. So my question to you guys is kind of a three-pronged question. Question one.
You can't do a complex question, Bill.
What's that?
You can't do a complex question. It has to.
No complex?
If you're gonna get an answer from all the panelists, it has to be yes or no, or else can't do it.
Or keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Keeping it simple.
Okay. How about this? Can they choose one?
Yes.
Okay. So out of those three, don't everyone choose small business because that's a softball. What would you guys do if elected to limit the scope of the Securities and Exchange Commission, limit the scope of FINRA, or limit the scope, or stimulate small business?
Why don't we start with Mr. Brown?
I'm going to take that small business one. You got to reduce that matching payroll tax is an absolute killer for small businesses. The government's stealing all the money out of the Social Security Trust Fund anyway. Now that's another story in itself.
We need to keep it real succinct though, because we have to go down the panels.
Okay. Cut taxes at the federal level, but you've got to get the local government to lay off small business. They are absolutely horrible the way they treat us.
Thank you.
I'd say brokerage houses have brought FINRA on themselves with some of the various events that have passed. But eventually, they'll have to be reeled in and check to see what they're doing right and wrong. and everything has to be reevaluated to the current situation.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. Mr. Hardy.
Yes, I'm going to take the regulation portion of this. The founding principles of our founding fathers were one, the most, what do you call it, economically beneficial situation for people is to make sure that we have a free and open market society with minimal regulations. Regulations need to be looked at and kept to a minimum. If we have violations within certain things, there has to be stronger penalties for those violations and less regulations for those that are doing things right.
Mr. Ennis?
Yes. When I get to Congress, I plan to establish a Liberty Caucus to examine not just FINRA and SEC, but all regulations and all taxes. I think there's so many on the books right now that cripple small businesses. And quite frankly, even though oftentimes like Dodd-Frank is talked about for going after big businesses, the banks that are too big to fail, the fact is that we all know, it usually misses the target and it really cripples small businesses and those that are trying to climb the economic ladder, while big businesses, through their lobbyists and through their accountants and their lawyers, find a way to get nice deals. So I would be very much in favor of examining all those regulations. Yes.
Next question.
Hi, my question is just for Niger Innis. I heard that you were at the Common Core rally today speaking out against Common Core.
Yes.
But as you know, Common Core is tied in with Agenda 21.
Yes.
Now, when I was looking you up, your core, the core,
The Congress Original Party.
yes, that you work with is a non-government agency, non-government organization.
Yes.
And as you know, non-government organizations and DPI is an arm of the UN that facilitates non-government organizations.
Yeah.
How would you change that? How would you separate that? You spent over a decade plus as the face of various anti-environmentalist campaigns paid for by the country's largest energy corporations. How will you now be anti-Agenda 21 when so long that you have been involved with Agenda 21?
Well, I don't know how getting involved in pro-free market campaigns and pushing back against environmental extremism goes to the Agenda 21 agenda. Actually, I came to Southern Nevada for the first time in 2007, but it was actually not the first time I was in Nevada. The first time I was in Nevada was in 2004 when I went up to an anti-Agenda 21 conference in Reno. And I spoke out against Agenda 21, and I've been pretty consistent against Agenda 21. I am proud of the Congress of Racial Equality. I'm proud that we're a non-governmental organization that has had activities all over the world, and I'm proud that we have brought a limited government, conservative perspective to a variety of bodies and a variety of communities here in the United States and around the world that have never heard them before. And I don't know how that plays into the Agenda 21.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ennis. Mr. Baca?
Give me for now.
Okay.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. What would you do to bring jobs in your district?
That's for everyone, and we'll just keep
Yes,
this very
just a brief-
succinct, maybe just a brief
Thanks.
statement. We'll start with Mr. Brown.
You've got to cut local regulation. And I realize we're running for Congress, but if you know something's done really wrong, you got to say something about it. We have a governor who just doesn't want to get involved in everything. I mean, if you look at, if you just start examining, I don't have time to give you all the regulations, but you can't even change a door on your house without getting a permit for it. There are so many regulations that you've got to cut way back, and I mean way back at the local level. And at the federal level, you got to cut taxes for small businesses. I actually work for the minimum wage at night, but I'm actually against raising it the way Democrats are going about it. It's all wrong what they're doing. They pretend like small business people don't even exist. In the day, I pay above the minimum wage, so it wouldn't hurt me. Okay, but there's millions of small business owners that would hurt if you raise that minimum wage. They're going about it all wrong.
Thank you. Mr. Budetich?
Well, you've got like 5 county districts to deal with that bring in their governments, like he's talking. Mr. Brown's got a good point. You've got the local governments that have to help you out when you try and do that. You can bring funding in for different projects and see if you can get, federal funding for a renewable energy project in one of the counties, or for a water reclaim, or something of that nature that's what's the word I'm looking for here? Compatible with the local resources of the area. And if you can find a government project that's in line with the local resources and the needs of the local area, you just fish it out of the barrel and bring it in. That's what you're there for. That's why we call it fishing, isn't it?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Hardy?
Thank you. There are so many things that can happen to get our economy moving again that's not being done. Number one, within that gridlock that's back there, we call the place we call DC. People, as the Constitution, are supposed to work together. We're not supposed to always agree, but we're supposed to work together to come to a common goal. There needs to be a security that there's a government going to be there that helps incentivize people to create jobs and expand the existing ones, not by creating laws that tell them what to do, but just make sure there's an environment there for them. But for the state of Nevada, one of the big issues that I fight for is getting our lands back. There are so many things out there that we could do with our own lands to create tax dollars and benefits for infrastructure if we got our lands back. 86% of the state is owned by the federal government. It was promised in 1864 that we would get that back more than 20 times, along with all other states. That is one area. Why is the federal government leasing ground to solar system plants and getting that benefit when we're not? The other thing is free trade.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Hardy. And Niger?
Repealing Obamacare and its ugly stepchild, the Silver State Exchange, repealing the expansion of Medicaid, I think is going to be critical among the variety of regulations and indirect taxes that strangle and suffocate small businesses. I think that is a critical component. I agree with Crescent that we need more control and ownership of our land. Actually, it's in dispute if the federal government actually owns our land, some 86%. One thing for sure is that they control 86% of our land. Them owning it is a question that many within the legislature, not just Congress representing the Nevada delegation, but in the state legislature, should have been bringing up for many, many, many years. It's too long. One thing for sure I can do, I can't promise tomorrow that I will reverse that ownership. I can promise is that I'll be a real voice.
I appreciate that. In the interest of time, we have to keep it brief because we... Yes. David?
Did you want to go back? You ready? Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. This question is to Mr. Hardy. I've worked in the private sector all my life, and you know, you keep your job by results, or if you interview for a job, they want to know what are your results. And so you mentioned the government's hold on our land and being able to reduce it and working to reduce that 86%. What kind of results have you gotten over the years to reduce that amount? Was it 90% at some point and now it's lower?
I guess I'm not catching the question exactly.
The question is results. I guess that's the statement is, what kind of, you mentioned the government BLM or, you know, controlling 86% of Nevada's land, is that correct?
Okay.
And you've been aware of that issue and things like that. You've worked on behalf of maybe reducing their control or a stronghold on our land. And so when I think of jobs and private sector, I think of results. So what kind of results have you had that, knowing this issue, have you been able to reduce their, over the time that you've dealt with it, or have you dealt with it, or you've been able to reduce their foothold or stronghold on it?
Actually, been an advocate of it for years, have not been involved in the state legislature until the past 2 terms. But in this last session, I was actually the individual who come out first and got this ball rolling with AB 267. Let Senator Kokachia and Assemblyman John Ellison take the lead on it as a bill to pass through legislation that creates a committee where we start selecting certain lands that we know we have benefit from, that we can get economic development from, that we can obtain taxes through, and to go to the federal government and say, hey, we want this, it's ours, we're going to take it. So that's one of the few steps that we've done. There's many more that we can do once we get control.
Thank you, Mr.
This way.
Thank you, Mr. Hyman. And David, did you have a question?
Yes, ma'am.
This will be for everybody. Just real keep it brief. What do you consider to be the #1 issue affecting the U.S.?
We'll start with Steve Brown.
That $17 trillion debt that both parties are responsible for, neither party acting alone has done that, and the fact that within a decade we're going to be paying $1 trillion a year on interest on the national debt. Now, if you consider that Right now, government revenues are 2.7 trillion, and within a decade, we're going to owe $1 trillion a year on interest. That is an absolute catastrophe waiting, and it will happen too,
Thank you,
unless.
Mr. Brown.
I'm thinking it's identity theft and fraud and personal security. So if people don't end up losing their identities, being maliciously treated badly by their own banks and losing their jobs, employment, because their identity has been stolen. So I think we really need to get a grip on locking down people's personal identities so that they feel safe in their own identity walking around in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Burch. Mr. Hardy?
Thank you. Debt can be more burdensome to our liberties and our freedom than subjugation and conquest. So debt has to be taken care of immediately. Debt will help create those jobs and that environment that we so desire to have within this country and help people continue to go that, and then defense of that is also.
Thank you, Mr. Ennis.
Debt, which two of my colleagues have brought up, is the symptom. The disease is a march towards socialism. Now, I'm not talking about Venezuela-style socialism, I'm talking about Western European-style socialism. And you want a sneak preview of that? Take a look at the state next door to us, California. Not only is debt a problem, but the growth of government and the perpetual growth of government is a problem. We need to have brave leaders. Tony asked a very good question to my opponent, Cresent, which is, what results have come? Because the fact of the matter is, this march towards socialism has come under Democrats and Republicans, both in Congress in Washington, D.C., and in the state legislature in the governor's mansion here in Nevada. And what we need is bold leadership that is not only going to draw the line and stop the progression towards socialism, but actually reverse it.
Thank you, Mr. Ennis. And Michael?
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here this afternoon. I'll ask the question I asked the previous panel. We've seen all this lack of bipartisan cooperation in D.C., and compromise is like a dirty word. What credible ways do you see to measure progress, and what specific way do you see doing it? Again, help temper my growing cynicism with D.C.
Do you want everyone to answer that? Or?
Yes, everyone, just give a brief answer. How do you feel like you can achieve compromise?
Mr. Ennis, work our way back this way.
Well, you know, compromise and bipartisanship isn't always necessarily good. I mean, we had $17.4 trillion in debt. There was a lot of bipartisanship in creating that debt, a lot of cooperation between Republicans and Democrats in creating that debt and the growth of government. I mean, it's a shame that I've got to go, I'm a loyal, proud Republican, but it's a shame that I've got to go back to Bill Clinton to hear a president that actually said the era of big government is over. Now, granted, he was reading a script, but at least read the right script. So, look, I have relationships right now in Congress with Republicans and Democrats, more Republicans than Democrats, but I have relationships with both sides of the aisle right now because of my work at the Congress of Racial Equality and my work at the TeaParty.net where I was the chief strategist. So I feel confident that there are going to be some issues when I establish that Liberty Caucus that I talked about examining every tax and every regulation on the books. I think there are going to be some Democrats with sanity, limited government Democrats, that I might be able to bring into that caucus.
Thank you, Mr. Ennis. We only have about 4 minutes left.
Sorry.
So,
Thank you. I think I've proven that this last session. My first term, I played pretty hardcore politics, state for right. Didn't accomplish absolutely nothing. The statement. They said it was one of the most divisive sessions in the history of Nevada. I don't know that to be a fact. That's what it said. This last session, in my leadership, working with the Assemblywoman Kirkpatrick, your Speaker Kirkpatrick, got to know her in between sessions. Got to know a number of other Democrats on this side. Those that are willing to listen to me, I'm willing to listen to them. That's how you educate people, is when they're willing to listen. And if you're willing to listen to them, you may not change each other's mind, but I've seen that works. They say this is the most collegial session and most productive session we've had in 30 years in the state of Nevada. I've proven that I can do that. You don't have to give up your principles, morals, or values to work with somebody on the other side. You have to go for a common goal, get the state back working again. We think we're doing a good job of that in the state, and I think we've stayed away from those issues with everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Mr. Budetich.
Yeah, you just can't go into any kind of negotiation with an opponent and say that everything's got to go my way. You have to come to a mutual agreement. Like, I've sat on negotiations for collective bargaining for a union for maritime, and we had to make our concessions. We had to make our known what we wanted. So it took a while. It took us long hours sometimes, but you can come to an agreement on what's going to happen. And it's just a mutual agreement to what the end result is, you know, do we want to have businesses growing in America? Yes. Do we want to have taxes for people so that they can feel safe in their house and the income they're earning? Yes. Do we want everything in line? Well, if you meet people like-mindedness or are willing to compromise, then you'll find that you'll have compromise and
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Mr. Brown.
Well, actually, I think they agree on a lot of things. Neither party acting alone could have put $17 trillion in debt, nor could they agree on giving away $59 billion a year in international aid, $261 billion a year in waste, fraud, and abuse. All of the recklessness on Wall Street, neither party tried to stop that one. I mean, let's just go right down this list of everything that they agree on. The issues that they talk about on Obamacare, yeah, there's a few disagreements, but if we can sit down and write down a whole list of things that are wrong with this country, we realize, like Mr. Innis said, there actually is a lot of bipartisanship. And one last thing I want to get in. Ron Paul introduced the Tax-Free Tips Act in 2011. That's going to be...
We're wrapping it up, so.
It was unanimous. Nobody supported it.
Okay, thank you very much.